Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Kellum, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom.
Welcome back, everybody. This is your boy Chris and the amazing co-host that is
Tyler, y'all.
And this week we bring on the husband of one of our former guests. What is your name?
Oh, Tommy Richardson. I figured you were going to roll with that one. My bad.
No. We like to let you introduce yourself in case I totally butcher your last names.
Well, I got a pretty stereotypical white boy name. kind of hard to mess it up.
I'm just saying, I found out yesterday that Raven Simone's name was actually a Raven Simone. And I was like, wait. Right. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't assume anything anymore.
Fair enough. I guess you can't. But yeah, I also want to shout out the hat, which is the Phillies, and his shoes have the Eagles.
Yeah, I got the
Eagles colors down there. So
being right outside, I got the Jordan 1 Eagles on.
Yeah, so being right outside of Philly myself, I had to shout that out. So
I mean, on the day of recording, the Eagles did just put a spanking on New York.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I didn't watch the game last night.
I didn't either.
So yesterday, my sister turned 24. So we went to Raleigh to go celebrate with her, and my wife and I were on the road while the game was on. And State and Carolina played last night, so that was much more important to me than the Eagles and the Giants. I've seen that game twice this year already.
Exactly.
I didn't want to see it a third time.
No. Yeah, that game was going to end up the same way the last two, if not worse, which is what happened. And then, the State Carolina game was good as well. So I did enjoy that.
It was good until the flagrant foul.
Fair.
That put Turquavian Smith in the hospital for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh.
Yeah, not fun.
Whatever.
Yeah, it happens.
Typical Carolina.
Yep.
But technically Carolina would be like, no, that's what Duke people do.
Dude, I've been an ACC fan my entire life. I grew up in Raleigh, and I've been a State fan my whole life.
Okay.
So it's like we all talk crap about each other's schools.
Yes.
I mean, the way I look at it, State beat Carolina in Chapel Hill in football this year and beat them last year, which was probably the biggest comeback I've ever seen in my life happen last year at Carter Finley when State came back and won that game. I think they were down like 11 or 12 with a minute and a half left and won the game.
Jeez.
And I was there to watch it, which made it even better.
Oh, of course.
So,
that's amazing.
They can have basketball. We'll take football. That's fine. They can have it.
Right.
That's fine.
I love it.
The only reason why my godparents are going to hate me for saying this, so I sure hope the hell they don't listen. But the reason why I like NC State basketball right now is only because of the coach.
Dude, Keats is great.
Keats is amazing. I mean, you can't deny that.
He is, man. I love Coach Keats. I wish he would be more aggressive with the refs sometimes and like fuss at them the way that you see Hubert Davis and how Coach K used to do it and some of the other guys, but that's not his style. Mm-hmm. And he's got to be true to who he is. And it took him a little while, but, came off of the worst season in program history last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we're 15-5 right now, which is a massive improvement. Last year we won 10 games.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, we can only go up from here. And I think he's done a good job. I haven't watched as many of those games as I have Liberty games because I graduated from LU. So I'm a little more attached when it comes to that. But I mean, they're doing good, man. I mean, I got no complaints.
Yeah, definitely.
I got no complaints at all.
Let's jump into the whiskey here from Chris, and then we'll get into your pass, which is going to be a little bit more to Liberty.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Tommy brought us Ranger Creek point. What is this?
36.
Point 36.
Point 30. Well, no, it's based off of like a caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah, but point 36 sounds wrong.
We'll just call it 36 caliber Texas bourbon.
Okay, that makes more
Probably
sense.
even better. Yeah.
Let's just call it that.
What it's actually called. Let's call it what it's actually called.
It's supposed to be a traditional like vanilla maple syrup on the nose, and then it has like a caramel, new wood, and cinnamon taste with kind of like a spicy finish.
You're gonna feel the spicy finish. You're gonna feel the spicy finish.
So me and Tyler are gonna taste it from the Glencairn just to like kind of taste it, and then because Tommy doesn't drink the whiskey straight, which I'm totally okay with.
I was gonna say
after
Chris
today,
is all about it.
we're doing a whiskey ginger today.
It's probably better.
Just giving you guys a little heads up so you don't just assume we're just going ham on this one.
And let's be honest. I mean, when it comes down to how I actually drink my whiskey on a daily basis, it's mixed with ginger.
So when I'm at home, it's always a whiskey ginger. Yeah. When I'm at home, because it's super simple to make. Yeah. Put some freaking ginger ale in there, shot of whiskey, you're good to go. Yep. When I go to a restaurant, I always do whiskey sours. Every time I go to a restaurant. And I've learned over the course of the past couple months that there's a right way and a wrong way to make a whiskey sour.
I was about to ask.
And if you see your bartender bust out some eggs and he's making a whiskey sour, that is going to be a phenomenal drink.
You got that right.
It's going to be very good.
Which is why I get a Manhattan.
I'm
just kidding. I do an old fashioned. I don't even do a Manhattan.
So I got a buddy. That's all he'll drink.
Old fashioned.
He makes them at the house for himself. That's all he'll drink when he goes out to eat, or if he just goes to a dive bar or whatever. That's it. That's all he'll do.
Okay. So I've actually learned when I go out now, if I go out somewhere, I'll ask for whiskey sour if they have eggs, because it makes complete difference. If they don't, then I go whiskey ginger because big difference.
Also, big difference. Asking for a bourbon ginger versus a whiskey ginger.
That's fair.
I found that out on my birthday. I haven't not finished a drink in years, and that was the day I was like, nope.
I did that. I'm not going to say the restaurant here in town that I did that with the other day, but I got one the other day, and I got like 4 sips in, and I was like, I cannot drink this. This is so bad.
Yeah.
And it was a whiskey sour, and I couldn't finish it. That's the first time I've never not finished a drink when I went out. It was just,
It's all good.
I feel you there.
so bad. But give it a taste. See what you think.
All right. Yeah. Cheers. 36 cal.
Yep. Cheers to you guys.
Thank you. 36 cal. That makes so much more sense.
Smells good. That is good.
I told you, dude. It's good.
Oh, thank you for bringing that in.
That is delicious, isn't it? And then the spice will kick in here in just a second. Yep. See, there it is.
Yep.
There it is.
You get it on the back, but that's what I love, because I'm a rye drinker. So when you get that spice on the back end, that's what I love. Chris isn't like huge on that, but that's all me all day long.
That is a good whiskey right there.
Oh, this is good.
Oddly enough, I taste like pineapple for some reason. Very, very odd.
So the maple syrup is pretty obvious.
Yeah, the maple syrup.
It's obvious that's in there because you can smell that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and then my surprise was the vanilla.
That comes on the back end.
Yeah, it hits a little bit later, but like I said, dude, it's very, very smooth. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm rarely gonna drink this. I was like, let's bring it up here, man. Let's see what these guys think about it, because y'all know more than I do.
Do you know where Ranger Creek is out of?
Nope, don't think so. I think it's out of New Braunfels, Texas. I think that's what it's out of.
We'll see.
Right. Chris, the king of all Google, will let us.
New Brownsville?
Braunfels.
If it's in New Braunfels, I'm 100% going, because that's where that bar is. That also is a gym.
It's outside of San Antonio.
Yeah. So
which is probably close to New Braunfels, because that's where that is.
So New Braunfels is like perfectly in between San Antonio and Austin.
Yeah.
It's like 40 minutes from both. It's like
Chris is Googling.
No, it's actually in the San Antonio. New Braunfels is like here.
Yeah.
And it's in the San Antonio
gotcha.
circle.
Gotcha.
It's outside of April, like Windcrest.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it. I have no idea. I'm going to San Antonio for the first time at the end of February, because we got an event down there with the company that I'm with now called Top Rep. And it's basically they train sales guys how to be better in the home services industry. And I've partnered up with Chuck and Jim, and I'll actually be speaking at that event to the sales guys, and I'll also be speaking individually to the owners of the companies as well.
Nice. So if you're in San Antonio, are you going to go by Fort Sam Houston?
So I've never been to the Alamo, and that is right there in San Antonio.
Yes.
So, and I've heard the Riverwalk is amazing.
It is.
Yes. So me and my wife, because my wife's never been to San Antonio either. So we're going to go to the Alamo that day. She's a Spanish teacher. You guys, if you don't know that, go back and listen to that episode.
Thank you.
But I'll give you a plug. I'll give you a plug. But yeah, so she's always wanted to go see it. I've always wanted to go. So we're going to get there early the day before. We're just going to go see San Antonio for a day.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
It will be.
And I'll be in DFW next week.
Nice. If you're going to be out in April, early April, let us know.
I will not.
Damn.
I will not.
So going back, way back,
you
said, well, I say way back. It's really not that far. It's probably like 10 years ago. You went to Liberty.
Yeah.
And that's where you met your wife.
It is.
We heard a very interesting story.
I already know what you're going to ask me. But go ahead. I know it's coming.
Elephant brain here.
That's what I'm here for. So, did you break up with the girl because of your wife?
No.
Okay.
I did not. I didn't.
I said I was going to ask you, so I had to.
No. We did not break up because of my wife. That's not what happened. No, what happened was me and her, we had a long distance relationship. She was in Durham, North Carolina. I think it was Durham. I don't know. It was a long time ago. And I was in Lynchburg, and we were trying to make something work, and we just couldn't make it work.
It makes
sense. It is what it is. She didn't want to leave there. I didn't necessarily want to leave Lynchburg. So it's like our lives took us just in different areas. And I mean, we dated for like 6 months, and I'd rather break it off then than 6 years.
Yes.
Or try to make something work that was never going to work. And Alex and I met at the gym that we both went to. She could tell you what year it was. I think it was 2014. I don't know, man. I have no idea. But she lived in the same apartment complex as me. And I was just like, hey, you just want to go grab something to eat? She was like, yeah, let's go. So I was like, all right, see how this goes.
Yeah.
It obviously turned out pretty well.
It worked out good.
We've been married for 7 years together, 8. We got 2 kids. I would say it's turned out pretty well.
Pretty successful.
So, did you join the military before you went to Liberty or after?
Before.
Okay.
So I graduated in 2006.
Okay.
And I joined the military December 2007.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay.
I joined in February of 2009.
Okay.
So it was a weird. So oddly enough, if anybody knows anything, there was a transition from, 2001. They did a bunch of stuff in Iraq, and then after Iraq, they kind of transitioned mainly into Afghanistan. And it was weird because like that 2-year window, I had some of my guys come back from deployment in Iraq and then join up with us because I was in the National Guard, and they went straight into Afghanistan with us.
Yep.
But you joined it in, you said 2007.
Yeah, so I joined in December 2007. I went to basic in January 2008. Mm-hmm. Funny story about me leaving for basic. So my mom's birthday is January 10th.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
They said I was supposed to leave January 10th to go to basic, and my mom told the recruiter he's not leaving on January 10th. So I ended up leaving January 11th to go to basic training. My mom's like, on my birthday, I'm not letting my baby go. It's not going to happen. So funny story about that. But I did basic down in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
Because I was infantry. That's what I did. I was 11 Charlie. So not only did I raid houses, I also launched mortars.
I was about to say, I'm like, at least you weren't 11 Bravo.
I mean, yeah. Those guys are a different level of dumb. I mean, well, not dumb, but they're just a different level of crazy.
Yeah.
Like they have a different look about them. They have a different mentality just about life in general. But it was funny how it became 11 Charlie. So when I showed up the basic in Benning, there was like 400 of us.
Yeah.
That all showed up at the same time. And they were like, all right, everybody on this side, you're going to be 11 Charlie. Everybody on this side, you're going to be 11 Bravo. And I just so happened to be on the side that was 11 Charlie. Because I signed up as 11 X-ray.
Okay.
That was what I signed up for, because the intention was I was going to go to Ranger School or RIP, which is Ranger Indoctrination Program, I think is what it's called. So that was the plan when I originally left. And so all of us were 11 X-rays.
Yes.
So you could have been either.
Oh, wow.
It didn't really, like, there was no, typically when you sign up, you know what you're signing up for. With us, I didn't know any better. I was like, I'm infantry.
Yeah. But I've heard that too. Like, I had a guy when I went through basic, he was like, well, everyone was looking around and he's like, I'm an X-ray. They just sent me here.
Yeah.
And he oddly enough had like basic training at Fort Leonard Wood. And then if he finished that, he would go, I think he did engineering school there. And like if he finished that school, then he would jump over. And I was like, that was an option?
Yeah, well, so my buddy signed, oh God, what was it? I think he wasn't X-ray, he was something different because he wanted to go special forces. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember which one it was, but it wasn't X-ray.
It was 18 something. Right?
Yeah, 18 something.
Yeah.
But it was still infantry.
Yeah.
So, because that's what he wanted to do. So his track was a little different than mine. He left like a week and a half after I did to go to basic in the same place. And when I graduated from like basic, not the AIT and all that good stuff, when I graduated from basic, because in infantry, you do it all in one fell swoop, right? So I think it's typically 14 weeks for 11 Bravo, 15 weeks for 11 Charlie, because we have to do everything the Bravos do, plus that 1 week of mortar training.
Yep.
Right.
So that's why ours was a little bit longer. Well, when I graduated from there, he was also at Fort Benning, and he was only a week and a half behind me. Well, he was Bravo. So he graduated the same time I did, and my grandfather, who came down the Benning, was riding around, found him walking down the road, picked him up in the truck,
No way.
and drove him to come see me, and then took him back to where he was supposed to be. I was like, do you know the trouble you could have just got this man in just from picking him up riding down the road? Oh. But so yeah, that's my graduation story from basic training.
Oh, see, funny. At least you had like some sort of. I graduated, and we woke up and they're like, "Hey, you're graduated. Now to MP school." And I was like, wait, what? They're like, yep, that's all you get. Yeah. And now you get to walk an extra like 3 miles to the next to our
Thank
school.
you very much on saying that.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, it was the 10th Infantry Hill at Fort Benning sucked. It was so bad. It's like, it's just such a long walk.
Yeah.
And you're in full battle rattle, which is helmet, knee pads, vest, whole 9 square yards. Right. And you have an 80-pound ruck on your back. And you're carrying your weapon.
Yeah.
Like all of it. And I want to say it was 20 seems like too far.
Ours was 15.
God, I think it was 17. I think it was a 17-mile ruck march that we started at sundown. Jeez. And the goal was to be where we were supposed to be before sunup. And God, what a walk. Oh, it was awful. It's the worst walk in the world because we were in the field for an entire week leading up to that. So we're low on sleep. I ain't had coffee in 7 days, and everyone's just exhausted. And they're like, all right, guys, pack it up. We're going. And you're just like, oh, this is going to suck.
So bad.
But, I mean, it was worth it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives you a different perspective of how tough you can be when you actually have to be tough.
Yeah.
So it was good. And then airborne school was so much fun. You're just learning how to fall.
Right.
That's all it is. You just learn to fall.
Why do I want to fall out of a perfectly good airplane?
You've never been in a C-130, have you?
Oh, I have.
It's not it's not perfectly good. That's the roughest ride I've ever had, man. It was awful.
I fall asleep so easily. Like I got in that and was like,
nah, dude. I couldn't wait to get out.
Everyone laughs. I'm like, no, I could fall asleep anywhere. Please don't.
See, that's what I've heard from other people in the military too. Like as soon as you get in a C-130, you want to jump out.
Yeah, I wanted to. I was ready to go. So my second jump in airborne school, and then we can get off the military if you want to. But my second jump in airborne school, have you ever jumped before? You have any clue how this works?
I know how it works. Okay. I didn't go through the school.
It's a static line jump. So you're not like pulling a chute.
Right.
And I think it's 1,200 feet is what you jump from in airborne, or maybe 1,600 feet. It's either 12 or 1,600 feet is what you jump from in airborne school. But when I got to the 82nd, it was 800 feet. So you're supposed to jump out and count to 4.
Yep.
And if it hadn't deployed by 4, you pull your reserve. That's the rule that they teach you. Well, my second jump, I was going out, and your static line's supposed to run on the outside of your arm.
Yeah.
And it goes to the back. You hand it to the jump master. You turn, take one step, and go. Right. And you're supposed to kick really, really hard so you don't like barrel roll down the side of the plane.
Yeah.
So I jumped out. We were good, and I brought my arm in. Well, what I didn't realize is when I handed it, the static line got loose, and it was wrapped around my arm. And I noticed it like at the very last second, so I threw my arm in the air, but it actually tore my bicep all the way around to my tricep.
Oh, shit.
Damn. And in my mind, I'm like, if I tell them I'm hurt, I'm not going to graduate from airborne school. Right. No. So I'll just always make sure I jump out of the left side of the plane so I can hand it with my left arm. So I can hand it with my left arm and then jump and pray to God it's not a fall going, that direction where I have to, pull really, really hard. And but I graduated, went to the 82nd Airborne, deployed into Iraq.
Wow.
All that good stuff, man.
See, it's all like that's how small the Army is, because so many people are like, oh, I was here, and I'm like, you would expect it. There's so many people who've been in the military, but they're all connected some way. Like that's where my granddad retired out of, was the 82nd, which is how part of the reason why we ended up here.
That's pretty cool though.
So cool. I drove up to Fayetteville all the dang time.
I'm sorry.
It's such a boring drive.
Old Vietnam.
Yeah.
Place is awful.
That's so what I refer it to as.
I mean,
I call it the 8th gate of hell. Because this place just sucks. It just sucks, man. There's nothing in. Now, I haven't been there in a long time, so if I'm crapping on Fayetteville and they've upgraded everything, I'm sorry. But I haven't been there in years and years and years. But I never, when I was on post at Bragg, I didn't leave. That was my safe
nothing
place.
Outside.
Well, if you go, what is it? If you go out Airborne Drive to the other side, not the Bragg Boulevard. So don't go to Bragg Boulevard. It's all strip clubs and drugs. That's literally all it is on Bragg Boulevard. Again, at least when I was there. If it's changed,
it's probably still
okay. I'm gonna take your word for it.
I think it's similar.
Okay. So if you go out on the other side, it's much nicer on the opposite side of Bragg than the Bragg Boulevard side. So that's where a couple of nicer restaurants. It's a little bit safer to be over there. And obviously 30, 45 minutes down the road, you got Pinehurst.
Yeah.
So it's not the worst place I've ever been in my life, but certainly not a place I would want to live.
No, I'm good.
So, yeah.
So you did a tour in Iraq. It's always weird thinking, like going back and forth, because Iraq was like a totally different ecosystem. Like it was a different sandbox than when I was in Afghanistan. Were you in there in 2009?
No, I was there in 2008.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got to my unit in May or June of 2008, and we deployed in December 2008.
Oh, so you were there in 2009?
No, I wasn't.
You said you deployed in 2008.
I did.
How long was it then?
I also got injured while I was deployed as well. I didn't make it to 2009.
Tell us about that then.
I didn't make it to 2009, bro. No, I never made it there. So when we had been in Iraq we got there December 8th and Christmas Eve. I don't even know what we were doing, but we were in our little bunk area or whatever you want to call it. So we were staying at an SUJ, which isn't a fob. So we got supported by fob loyalty. So they would bring us all of our stuff. So we were like literally a pin dot in the middle of Baghdad is where we were. And we were right across the river from the Mahdi militia. So 10th Mountain Division was there before we were. And there was a ceasefire until a week before we got there. The week before we got there, they lifted the ceasefire. And what sucked more than anything else is the guard tower was right on the other side of where our building was. So when they would shoot at the guard tower, we would hear the bullets hit the side of our building.
Oh, shit.
And it just sucked. Like, you'd wake up and you'd be like, and just go back to sleep. Like, because you just get used to it. Like, you got to sleep. You ain't going to go outside. You're getting shot at.
Right.
You know, and I don't know who I'm shooting at, so I'm not going out there. I'm chilling here. I'll just keep watching my Charlie Brown Christmas movie and keep the night going, you know? But no, we were in there. It was right after we had eaten dinner. And I was messing around, like making my bed or doing something. I don't even remember what I was doing. And I just heard something hit the floor, and it sounded like metal hit the floor. I was like, what in God's name is that? And I turned around, and there was something that I'd never seen before. Come to find out later, it was a blasting cap, and I did not know that. And and I was a young, dumb private, and I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Like, nothing could hurt me. And I was like, oh, just hit RB like in Call of Duty and throw it back, right? Like, that was my first instinct, just throw it out. Well, as soon as I touched it, it blew up. And when it blew up, as you can see, obviously, you know, partial loss of 3 fingers on my right hand. And, I mean, that was kind of that. I mean, you know, I went from there to the Green Zone in Baghdad. I had my first surgery there. I woke up on Christmas Day, and I called my mom. I was like, hey, Mom, what's up? She goes, oh, I wasn't expecting to hear from you today. I was like, well, you're going to see me in about 4 days. She was like, what happened? I was like, I really don't know. But I woke up, and all I could see was that. Like, that's it. That's it. And I was like, all I can see is my ring finger and my pinky finger on my right hand, and I got a huge bandage, and I really don't know what happened. Next voice I heard was my dad. My dad's like, what happened, dude? I was like, again, I don't know what happened. I just know the condition I'm in. And so I went from there to Tikrit, from Tikrit to Landstuhl, Germany. And they thought I was going to be in Landstuhl for a really long time because I had like 100 stitches in my hand. So
sorry.
Oh, it's all good,
I just don't like stitches.
No, it's all good. So if you can see that right there, so the only thing holding my thumb to my index finger was this small piece of skin right here. There was a hole that went through there that I could actually see through.
Oh, wow.
And they actually healed it all back up. Like, you can see the scars and everything that are right there to where it all kind of healed back through. And so they thought I was going to be there for a long time to try to prevent infection and all that good stuff. Sure. So they were like working. Like, I got to give the 82nd all the credit in the world, man, and my CEO. Like, they were going to get my parents to Germany to come be with me in Germany.
No shit. Wow.
Like, that's what they were trying to do. And then they're like, nah, he's going to be home New Year's Eve night. So I went from there to Andrews Air Force Base in D.C.
Yep.
I was supposed to fly back that night. I didn't. because we were flying on a puddle jumper and apparently the wind was terrible. And then I ended up on New Year's Day of 2009 is actually when I got back to Fort Bragg.
Okay.
Yep. So when I say I never made it in 2009, that's why.
That's why.
So that's what happened. So I was actually only deployed for a couple weeks before I got injured.
Got you.
Yep.
Which is all like, it's very rarely, it feels weird. Like, I very rarely meet guys who are like, oh, hey, I made it to the end of the deployment and then something happened.
Yeah.
Like when our people, we lost some people and it happened. Like we got there, they were like, we're dead. And they showed up 2 weeks in. Mm-hmm. I'm like,
yeah. Well, one of the things that I learned is fortunately for me, I didn't die. Yeah. And I very easily could have. Mm-hmm. Like when it went off, to kind of go back to when the event actually happened a little bit, it was just a really loud bang. My ears were ringing and everything went white. And my first instinct is I'm blind. Yeah. Like that was the first thing that popped in. I was like, well, this is it. This is where we are for the rest of my life. I better start learning Braille.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of started coming back a little bit. I was like, okay, you have your eyesight. You're okay. And the first person I see is my buddy Dobbs, who's just laid over on his bed and he's not moving. And I'm like, oh shit, like this is not good. Yeah. Well, I was turning in a circle though when I came back to it. I don't know if that's like a thing your body just does, but I just spun in a circle and I just nailed your mic. Okay. And craziest thing is there was blood everywhere. And I was like, man, someone got messed up. Still didn't know I was injured because I still hadn't seen my hand yet.
Right.
And then I went to go get him. And when I did that with my hand, that's the first time I like saw that I was injured. And I just like kind of froze. And then my platoon sergeant came in, saw what was going on. And then, we, SOPs take over after that. Mm-hmm. But they put the tourniquet like way up here.
That's really high.
It is. It was way too high. Honestly, it should have been down here, like below the elbow. And I tell you what, I would rather have a medic in the Army do surgery on me than somebody in a hospital.
Oh, I believe it.
Because them jokers are awesome. Yeah. Like they are phenomenal. So as soon as I walked in there, they were like, all right, we know what to do. And they just started working on me and I was getting IVs and I just had all sorts of stuff going on. And I said to the girl that was working on me, I was like, I can't really feel my right arm. Like I'm just numb. I got nothing. And she looked because they put the IV in over here, which was the painkiller to get the pain to go away, but didn't realize how long the tourniquet had been on my arm. And she was like, we might want to loosen your tourniquet up because your arm's blue. So if they wouldn't have loosened that up, there's a firm possibility I could have completely lost my entire right arm. So I look at it as I'm actually pretty blessed that this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
for those who don't know, if you're ever using a tourniquet, you try and go to like the nearest joint and like knock it off. So like if it happened to his hand, you would go to his elbow.
Just below the elbow is where it was supposed to go.
I only know this because we had Fran on. Like when we first started, she was my doc when I went on deployment. Love her to death. And she's in National Guard. She's still a medic. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, she actually educated us to the point where I'm like, oh, this makes sense. If something happens, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Do I want to have to do it? No.
And if you're listening to this podcast, listen to that episode because she gives you some like real shit. Like if you come across an accident on the road, like she gives you some good information that you could use tomorrow.
And you're protected by the Good Samaritan law too. Like you're not going to get sued.
Yes. Right.
So, well, you could, but they won't win.
I was saying, they won't win. Yeah,
you could, but they probably won't win because of the Good Samaritan law.
Yeah. So, I mean, for an instance, my dad was driving on the highway the other day. A guy came across and hit an 18-wheeler.
Jesus.
And he had to go and try to help this guy, like try to not move because who knows if he broke a vertebrae or whatever the case may be in that instance. And just the things that you should know. Yep. Fran gave a lot of those pieces of information during that episode, and just the things you should do or not do. Yep. Really, in that case of how to help in an emergency.
Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I made this drink way too strong. I've got to be honest right now.
What I'm going to point out is almost every time we have some person of the military on, it is a strong drink. That is poured.
Dude, that is.
Whew. Can we also say that's the last episode of our day?
No. So we had Catherine on. She was number 2, and then we had HP. No, HP was 2, and then Catherine was number 3 that day.
That was a whole day of military. Yeah, yes. So we were effed
so
up.
Yeah.
Dude,
so,
this is serious right now. Like, I don't drink that much, so I didn't drink for 7 straight years.
Oh, wow.
You didn't have to drink.
Dude, I know I didn't have to. I've listened to enough of your podcasts. I know I didn't have to do it.
Yeah, right.
But for me, I was like, I enjoy having a whiskey drink every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, it's just nice. Like, I just recently got into it probably like 3 months ago. Like,
that's great.
It hasn't been a long time. Like, before that, I would drink like a Mick Ultra or something. But I was like, I don't even like the taste of it. So I would get like halfway through it and be like, this tastes terrible.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're going on whiskey and wisdom. You know what I mean? Like, you better have something that has to do with whiskey. Unless you're Reggie, then you can bring tequila.
Right.
Oh, well, and we had vodka for Connor because he's a part of Blue Shark.
Okay, fair enough.
And then Reggie, obviously tequila, but he's also part Mexican, like his family's actually from Mexico.
Fair enough.
I'm like,
you got a little Latino in him.
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense.
No doubt.
But like everyone else we've gone for the whiskey, and I'm like, but you are the second person to do a mixed drink with us.
Very good.
And what I've learned, because Fran was the first person to do, which, Doc, when you add bubbles or carbonation to a drink, it's going to kick your ass.
Oh, dude. I'm really hoping this podcast goes at least another 45 minutes so I can finish this because I'm taking a small breather.
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to start hitting this water over here.
So I'll be honest, though, because it does have that nice spiciness to it.
Yeah.
The ginger does make it taste very good. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying sipping.
Dude, Alex fussed me because you're not supposed to mix that. I was like, I don't care what I'm supposed to do. This is how I'm gonna drink it.
You're doing it right.
Whether you want me to or not. Like, this is
that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not drinking whiskey straight, dude.
The only way you're supposed to drink alcohol is the way that it tastes good.
Yeah, and this tastes very good in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's very
fantastic.
Good.
So, because we're going on this tangent, if you like something that is good, nice little blend, try plantation rum.
Okay.
It's just rum, but they do a nice dark finish. It's finished in like white oak barrels.
Okay.
So it has a taste of rum or like of whiskey, but it's sweeter.
Okay.
And that I put in and I was sipping on it. And I'm like, this is something that could transition you into like a base level whiskey without being that heavy spice. And you're like, I can't drink this straight. So if you want to transition to something that you can try and move towards whiskey straight, I would try the plantation rum.
I just drink too fast. So
do it. Yeah.
I mean, dude, like I was up to here when we got started, bro. And I'm already, dude. I'm sending this thing. Like I got to pump the brakes a little bit.
I love it. So came back.
Yep.
And there, just so everyone, there's a process to getting out, or
it's not a short process. So when I came home, I got but I got put in the Wounded Warriors Battalion at Fort Bragg, and they're like, your job is to heal. It's like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, I'll just go to my appointments. I'll do what I'm supposed to do, and they put me on what's called a dead man profile, which means you're allowed to do everything a dead man does, which is basically lay down, which is nothing. So like, I didn't have to go to formation. I didn't have to do PT. All I had to do was show up to my appointments. Like, that was it. That's all I had to do. And it sent me down like a bad road, like, which leads to why I didn't drink for 7 years. So basically all I did is they put me in the Airborne Inn at Fort Bragg, and once a month they would come by and check on you, you know? And it's like, it's not enough. And I mean, I got to give credit where credit's due to the staff sergeants and the leadership that was there. Like, they were so busy keeping up with like 300-400 guys, making sure they're showing up to appointments and all that good stuff. It's like doing room checks. You know, it's like, you guys are adults, you know what I mean? But they had rules. You can either have a fifth of any liquor, or you can have up to a 12-pack of beer in your fridge. That was the max you were allowed to have. You couldn't have both. You couldn't have a combination of both. It was one or the other. Well, for me, I always just kept a 12-pack of beer. That's just what I did.
Yeah.
And eventually it turned into Jack Daniels. And it got to the point where I was putting Jack Daniels in coffee in the morning, like, to get me going. So I had a problem, you know, and I woke up one morning, I was like, I got to quit this mess. And that day I set it down, and I didn't pick up alcohol for 7 years.
Wow.
Didn't touch it until the night I got married in 2015. I didn't have a single sip of alcohol.
That's amazing.
So But that was just me being like, I'm not doing this to myself. I've never seen anybody in my family go through it. I've never seen a friend go through it. And I don't want to be the guy that's like, yeah, you know, that guy, he could have been something, you know, like I was just like, I'm not going to be him.
Yeah.
So, and it was convenient because the PX was right across the street from the hotel. So I didn't really have to go very far. I could go over there drunk and make it back in one piece and be fine. But I was drinking beer and eating pizza every night. That's all I did for like 6 months.
Domino's pizza.
Papa John's. That's what we had on post.
Oh.
We had Papa J's.
Papa J's is better.
Which is where my addiction to Papa John's came from. Like now I won't order Domino's. Like there's a Papa John's like a mile and a half from where we live here. And I'll choose that over anything because that's all I ate when I was.
It's
don't get Chris on the pizza train because we will be on here for 20 minutes.
Look, Domino's is good. I'm not going to argue that Domino's is good. I'm not going to argue that the local places that we have it, like Slice of Life, dude. I would prefer Slice of Life over anything ever. Period. End of discussion.
Now you got
to
Chris
me, Slice of Life is the best pizza out here.
Yeah.
But if we're just looking for something quick and we're just ordering in, there's 2 reasons why I pick Papa John's. One, it's a mile and a half from the house. The delivery's always fast.
Yeah.
And number 2, that's just what I eat. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
there was a recent episode that I had to edit out 20 minutes of Chris talking about Slice of Life. So just so you know.
20 minutes. No, my argument is I like Domino's when you do the thin crust chicken bacon with like a white sauce.
Fair enough.
And then I do Papa John's. Like that's just our basic.
Yeah.
But we also haven't ordered like delivery pizza and since we moved to our house, I literally will get in the car and drive to Slice of Life and just pick it up.
Well, you can get it quicker.
Yes.
It's either wait 45 minutes for the delivery or have them cook it in 10, drive up there and get it. At least you can smell it for 15 minutes on the way home.
Yes,
you know, like it gets you a little more excited.
Well, to get Chris off the pizza train because we'll stay on.
No, we're good. Sorry about that.
I forget when it was, but I had to edit out 10 minutes of you talking about pizza.
We do batches, so sometimes I just run on a rant.
No, you're good, man.
So how did it go from being in the military to getting into the marketing background that you have? Because I know you talked about that. That's a huge jump. And I know you talked to me about it a little bit before you got on the podcast, but go ahead through that.
So a little bit of a story that kind of goes along with that. So there was many steps that happened before we got to that point.
Yeah, definitely. Go through.
So I got out of the military and I needed a job, and there was a new gym that had opened up in town. So I was a personal trainer there for a little bit because I just had to make money. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, I was like, well, I need to do something other than this because this ain't going to pay the bills for the rest of my life. So I was like, well, what's the closest thing to the military that I could have outside of the military? Be a police officer. Right, so that's what I decided to do.
Or a contractor.
or a contract killer. And I just, that gets a little sketchy though. That gets a little sketchy though. Like in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I probably can't have a wife and kids if that's what I'm doing.
No.
I could get paid very well.
But I don't want to do that because it's so right.
But I don't want to do it. So I decided to be a police officer. I got hired by Raleigh Police Department after going through basic law enforcement training at Wake Tech. So I was a cop there. I made it through like a week of their like basic training, I guess you would call it. And all it did was piss me off because they were trying to make it so militaristic that I was like, this is a freaking joke. And the people that were in there with me just pissed me off too. Like they just did. Not the instructors. The instructors were great. They were good people. But it made me mad. They're like, we can't cuss at you. I'm like, why? That's dumb.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, do you think that a perp on the street is going to follow that rule? They're not. Like, you got to make us mentally tough. Like that's part of the training that we have to go through. So like, if you pull somebody over and you got to arrest them, do you think they're like, oh, rule is I can't call you any names? It doesn't work that way. So I was like, this is so stupid. Mm-hmm. Well, I got accepted to Liberty University about a week after that.
Good.
Mostly not because I was a good student in high school, because I was a hellion in high school, and I graduated. Thank you, Lord. That's how I graduated.
Right.
And so it's because they knew they were going to get paid because I had the GI Bill. That's probably why I got accepted. But I actually started as a ministry major because I wanted to be a youth minister. That's what I wanted to do. And I did a internship as a youth pastor in Cincinnati, Ohio one summer. And I found it good for me and the Christian belief if I was not a youth pastor, because I realized how much I hated it because church became a job. And I never wanted church and my faith and my walk with Christ to become a job.
Absolutely.
That's not what I wanted for myself, because I would start resenting it, kind of like I did with the gym when I was a personal trainer. So I didn't want that to be something that caused me to be like, screw this, I'm never going again.
Right.
Came back, changed my major over to sport management. So my goal is I was going to go work for an athletic department somewhere in the country. That was my goal. And then I met my wife.
Yeah.
And realized she doesn't want to move just anywhere in the country. So I was like, all right, well, you better figure something out. Mm-hmm. So I started selling cell phones at Verizon.
Yep.
And did really, really good there. I was doing like $2,000 every 2 weeks in commissions. So I was doing pretty good. Yeah. Well, a buddy of mine that was working there used to be in car sales. He goes, dude, you should really go sell cars. You'd make a lot more money.
Mm-hmm. People always say that.
Well, and I did.
Well, from
so now, no.
Yeah.
Now in Virginia, I was at Pinkerton Chevrolet in Virginia.
Okay.
And I was making like $8,000 to $10,000 a month, selling like maybe 6 cars a month.
Easy, yeah.
Well, like I was making bank, dude. I was doing really, really good. And then when we moved here, because there was 24 inches of snow that fell in February of 2016 or January 2016. I still have the video I think I have the video on my phone of my wife shoveling snow, like just pissed.
Yep.
And she came back in and I was like, all right, I'm ready to move when you are. I'm ready. And it was either Raleigh or Wilmington. Those were our two choices, because I grew up in Raleigh, she grew up here. So our agreement in that was she has to apply for jobs in Raleigh. I have to apply for jobs in Wilmington.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever gets a job first, that's where we move.
Smart.
And that's how we decided it, because if not, we were just going to do this.
Yeah.
So that's how we decided it.
That's really smart, to be honest with you.
Well, that's the best way I could come up with to decide it. I mean, if there's a better way, maybe somebody else can.
yeah, let us know. But I think that's fantastic.
But that's how we did it, and it worked out really well for us.
Yeah.
Well, being a sales guy, you can get a job anywhere like that. So I was like, well, we're moving to Wilmington. I just kind of came to grips with it pretty quick. So I got a job at a local car dealership here. I'm not going to call them out because I'm about to tell some bad stories. But I got a job working there. It was just different. Mm-hmm. Like there's like 20 sales guys on the floor. I came from like 6. Mm-hmm. You know, it's new car sales. There's not a whole bunch of markup where we were. And when we were in Virginia, we had markup. I knew how much we had in the car. I knew how much we were selling it for. I knew how much I could negotiate. And your negotiation tactics were just different.
Yep.
And when I got here, dude, I was barely making $1,000 every 2 weeks.
Shit.
I was like, God, I can't do this, dude. I just can't. So Alex, my wife, she was like, well, why don't you just get into real estate? I was like, all right, screw it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I got into real estate. Did $8 million my first year in real estate. Damn. In a town that I know nobody. And my boy, Jan Roggeman, God, dude, I love this guy. We were on a team together, and we absolutely just murdered it. Yeah. Like, we just had 2 of us together on a team, and, man, we just hustled. And I got an opportunity to be the sales manager at a real estate company on the Topsail Island, Surf City area. So I took that job. I did it for about 6 to 8 months, and then Hurricane Florence hit. Real estate went.
Yep.
I was like, I got a kid on the way, man. Like, because at the time, Alex was, I think, 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I'm not going to make any money for like the next year probably. Yeah. And I got a little girl on the way. I need to figure this out. So my buddy, Justin Woodruff, who at the time owned a roofing company based out of Clayton, North Carolina, gave me a call. He was like, hey, man, we're opening up a branch in Wilmington. And this was like 3 weeks before Florence actually hit. He started hitting me up about this stuff.
Okay.
And because so none of us knew Florence was coming at the time.
Right.
After Florence hit, I gave him a shout. I was like, yo, dude, I mean, I'm in. Let's go. Well, started selling roofs, realized I hated that as well and wanted to do it. But I loved the company. I loved who I was working for. Everybody was awesome. The culture was great. The people were all, I mean, just amazing group of guys and girls that he had assembled together.
Yeah.
I was like, look, man, I got a little girl that's going to be born in about 2 months, man. Is there anything other than sales that I can do? And he was like, well, yeah, man, you know how to fly a drone? We need to get pictures taken of all these houses we're completing. And this was on the front end of roofing companies doing heavy marketing. Like this was on the massive front, especially from an organic standpoint.
Yeah, certainly.
I was like, sure, I can do that. Completely lied to him. That's how I got my first job in marketing, by the way, was through a bold-faced lie.
It's not that hard, though.
It's not. I looked at it, I was like, it's like playing a video game. You know what I mean? But you can go take the photo, but then you got to edit it. Then you got to do all the sizing. And social media was never something that I was like invested in, but he wanted me to do all the social media stuff for him too. So started doing that. And then he goes, hey man, do you know how to like film and edit videos? Hell yeah, let's go, dude. I'm in. And I was telling Tyler when we were out there, I was like, the good thing is we were both ignorant to what quality video was because neither one of us had ever done it. So the first video we cut, it was like, this is the greatest thing ever. This is so good. And then we started like, and all credit to Justin for this. He's the one who pushed the label on everything. Like he made me get better because he was like, do this. How can we do better transitions? How can we make the color look better? How can we, spice things up a little bit? Yeah. And I just got really, really good at it over the course of that year of 2019. And so I was with them all throughout 2019, all throughout 2019, I was with them. And then in 2020, in January, they won the best marketing in a roofing company in the country in 2020. So all of that kind of led to me having my own company because when COVID hit, I'm not going to get into this story because I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I eventually left the company. Mm-hmm. I was asked to leave. Yeah. I didn't do anything wrong. I just got a text message that basically said, you're gone. That's how I got let go. Wow. Was through a text message. And I was like, well, that sucks because we just bought a new house like 3 weeks ago. No. And it's the house that we're currently in now. And everybody told me, they're like, man, just go pull unemployment. It's easy to get right now because it's in the middle of COVID. Mm-hmm. Just go get it. And I was like, F that, dude. I got a freaking skill sitting here in front of me and I know how to do it. I've been in sales pretty much my entire life. I finally have something that I believe in that I can go sell that is mine. I'm going to go start my own freaking company. And everybody except my wife told me I was an idiot. Alex is like, I trust you, whatever you want to do. Yeah. If this is what you want to do, that's fine. And I think it was Billy, the one that you guys released last week with Billy. He was like, give yourself a time frame on everything that you do. Yeah. And that's exactly what we did. So this was September of 2020. I was like, all right, if we're not making our old salary by the end of the year, I'll go find something else. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'll go do. And that gave us enough because we had enough in reserves to where we could at least make it to then. Absolutely. It gave me time to try to do something that I've always wanted to do. On our first date, I told my wife, I said, I will own my own company one day. It's going to happen. And if you're not in for that, then we shouldn't be going on a second date. Mm-hmm. Because this is what I'm going to do. This is where I want to go. These are my goals. Are you in or are you out? Yeah. On the first date, by the way. Oh. That's what you do. At the time, I was at an age where I was like, I'm not playing games anymore. Like, I'm not just dating for the sake of dating. Yeah. And fortunately, Alex was in the very similar position of her life. So she was like, I'm in. Let's go. So now, fast forward 5 years from our very first date, or 6 years from our first date, we're finally there. Yeah. And she was like, all right, let's go do it. And ended up owning the company for 2 years before we sold it.
That's amazing.
So we did $150,000 in sales our first year. I did $400,000 in my second year.
Wow. Sheesh.
But my goal at the beginning, I said, I'm going to run it for 2 years and then I'm selling it. I'm done. No matter what, in 2 years, I'm selling it.
But you had an exit plan.
I did. Like, it was always scale to sale. Mm-hmm. That was always the goal. So every decision I made was based off of profit margins more than anything else. Thank you for fixing that because I've been struggling, bro.
We always do.
Yeah. Everything was based around that. And I ran about 70% profit margins the entire time on the company.
Jeez, wow.
So, but that's just how I set it up. Every decision was made through that lens because I knew what my goal was and I knew what success looked like for me before I ever got there.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. So, sold it after 2 years. Mm-hmm. What are you doing now?
Oh, man. I play golf every day. No, I'm just kidding. I do play a lot of golf now, though.
I mean, Tyler plays a ton of golf, and I don't
play a ton at all. You need to teach me how to play golf.
I've played 5 times this year already.
I need to figure out how to play golf. So
I played yesterday and shot 12 over. So I'm not the greatest in the world by any stretch of the imagination. No. But, I mean, I'm shooting, mid-80s? Yeah. Okay. I mean, and for somebody who's just going out there having fun, that's not too bad.
It's better than me. I'm shooting in the hundreds.
And the next, at the very least month, but hopefully next 2 weeks, let's go out together and try to teach me.
So I'll be honest with you. I've had one lesson my entire life, and that was about 3 weeks ago at Loggerheads. But dude, my iron play was off the freaking charts yesterday. Like off the charts. I was like 260 out on a par 5, and I took my driver off the deck and put it, my fairway driver, so a 3-wood.
Right.
I took it off the deck and I landed it 3 feet in front of the green. So I took it 260.
Damn.
With a 3-wood. I was so happy. I hit that shot and I was like, yes. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, what I'm doing now, to answer your question.
Yes.
So not all the time. So about May last year, I reached out to a really good friend of mine. His name's Jim Johnson, and he coaches businesses for a living in the home service contractor space specifically. Like that's his niche. That's who he talks about. So if you do work on a house, he coaches you. So painters, electricians, roofers, general contractors, whatever you can call it, right? So I hit him up and I was like, look, man, I know this is a little out of the ordinary, but I need help. Because I knew what my plan was moving forward. I was like, I'm struggling with a couple areas, but I'm trying to get to a point where this is what I want to do. Told him that straight up. And he goes, well, what do you want to do afterwards? Like that was his first question. It was his initial goal was not to get me to sell the company. His initial goal was to find out what is it that you want to do? Because if this ain't it, that's fine. But what is it that you want? And we probably had 2-3 hours worth of conversation over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. And come to find out that I love developing meaningful relationships with people. Like that's actually what I care about doing. Like I want to know you. What makes you tick? Like what do you care about? You know, and then how can I help you? If it's in marketing, freaking great. Let's do that. If it's just giving you a shout every once in a while and just checking in on you to see how the wife and kids are doing, that's fine too. You know, but that's what I care about is having deep relationships with people. And he was like, well, you have a skill in marketing, you like the relationships, and you like helping people. Have you ever thought about coaching? I was like, not really. He's like, well, fortunately for you, we're in a position here at Contractor Coach Pro, we're ready to bring on a marketing coach. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I actually started doing that before I ever sold the company. So I already had the next phase of my life started because I didn't sell the company till October of last year, and I started working with them in August.
Oh, that's great.
Or July.
Yeah.
July.
Yeah.
Yep. So now I'm coaching contractors, really any business owner, really, because marketing is marketing across the board. As long as I have a clear understanding of what it is that you do, I can help you out, you know?
It's been a day of connections.
So something we've talked about previously, Chris and I, is we've talked to on this podcast, we talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's talking about like having the freedom, everything like that. So something that I noticed after I talked to your wife, Alex, is I started looking at your Instagram more and finding out who you are more. Yeah. And one of the posts that you put was when you started the business, it was talking about freedom and how entrepreneurship, instead of creating more freedom, created more, I don't want to say chaos, but created more restrictions, I guess you could say. And how the opportunity that you created now has created more freedom than what the entrepreneurship created. So this is kind of a loaded question, but kind of lean into that a little bit more about how that opened up more opportunity for you and the goals that you have been able to accomplish from joining another company and helping them out as opposed to being an entrepreneur yourself.
One of the questions I was asked by Jim, again, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, first off. Every single one of us does. There's nothing new on the planet that's never been said.
You got that right.
There's no new concept. There's no new anything. So everything that I know has been learned from other people in my own experiences. First off, let's just make that very clear. Yeah. So there's going to be a couple things I'm going to say here. You're going to be like, damn, that's pretty good. No, I'm not that smart. I learned it from other people. Okay, let's just be clear about that. But one of the things that Jim asked me, he said, is your growth dependent upon your presence as a business owner? And I was like, yes.
Yep.
The name of the company, one, was Nubs Media. If I'm not there, it's not Nubs Media, first off, right? Second off, I'd never set myself up to empower my people to make the decisions that were necessary. That's my mistake. And I've told them that. That's a mistake I made. So everything that happened within the company was dependent upon me being there.
Sure, yeah.
So I never, and every entrepreneur wants the freedom, but they're not willing to give away the decision-making responsibility to people they trust when they are not there. So everything in that company is dependent upon them being present, whether on the phone, on a Zoom call, actually physically present. And so that's where I made a mistake. So I would say if you're a business owner, try to start transitioning to where your company growing doesn't depend on you being there. And it's a very hard thing to do. It's not easy. Yeah. It's really, really not. Absolutely. It is a very hard transition to make because you're giving up control over something that is your baby. That's like leaving your child with a brand new babysitter. You know what I mean? It's like
that right, yeah.
I've done all the vetting I could possibly do, but what if? You know, and we get caught up in the what ifs and we overanalyze, and you end up, I think it was Billy last week that said it, paralysis through analysis. Yeah. You know, you overanalyze everything, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. And that's a problem. So I never did that, and other companies do the exact same thing. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely.
I hope it does, but that's kind of the first thing that popped into my mind when you said, and I made notes for myself.
Hey, that's good.
Before we got here, so I wanted to be a little prepared, but that was one of the things that I wrote down.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to make sure you touched on?
Oh, dude, it's just it's just a bunch of things that people have said to me over the years that have just because it's whiskey. We got that part down, but then we got the wisdom part of it. Like what
That's
wisdom?
The important part. Yeah.
Like what wisdom have I actually gotten from the people that I respect and revere?
That was part 1 of Tommy Richardson's interview. I hope you have enjoyed hearing Tommy's story. In part 2, we dive more into his work in marketing and life philosophies. Part 2 will air tomorrow at 6 a.m. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoy the Whiskey and Wisdom podcast, please consider subscribing and rating the podcast. We will see you in the next one. Cheers.